I've never told anyone the full version of this story. Not my mom, not my friends, not even the guy I called that night when I was sitting in my truck shaking so bad I could barely dial. I'm telling it now because I still think about it. Every time I'm near water at night, I think about it. This happened 3 summers ago. I was 22. I'd just gotten out of a bad situation, lost my job, broke up with my girlfriend of 4 years, and moved back into my dad's old house on the edge of Cullman County, Alabama. The house sat maybe a quarter-mile from a reservoir called Logan Martin Lake. Not a famous lake, not a tourist spot, just a long, quiet stretch of dark water that locals used for fishing and mostly forgot about after sundown. I had too much time and not enough money, so I started fishing at night. There's something about night fishing that feels like it belongs to you. The rest of the world goes quiet, the water goes black, and it's just you, your line, and whatever's underneath. I did it alone always. Folding chair, tackle box, headlamp, and a thermos of coffee. I had a spot I liked, a concrete platform that jutted out from an old boat access point about 2 miles from the main road. Nobody ever came out there at night. That was the whole point. The first few weeks were fine, more than fine actually. It was the only time I felt like myself. Then one Tuesday night in July, everything changed. I got there around 9. The air was thick the way Alabama summer nights get, heavy, warm, like breathing through a wet towel. I set up my chair, cast my line, and sat back. The water was still, barely a ripple. Around 10:30, I heard a car pull up behind me on the gravel lot. I turned around. Headlights cut off. I could see it was an older truck, dark-colored, maybe navy or black. Sat there for a minute or two. Sometimes people pulled in to turn around or check their phones, so I didn't think much of it. Then the door opened. A man got out. He walked toward the water, but not toward me, more to the left, maybe 30 feet away. He didn't have any gear. No rod, no tackle box, no chair. He just stood at the edge of the concrete and looked out at the water. I watched him for a second, then turned back to my line. 10 minutes passed. I glanced over. He was still standing there, same spot, same posture, not moving. I told myself it was fine. People come to lakes to think, to breathe. It's not weird, but something about him made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't explain. He wasn't fishing. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't looking around. He was just still, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. Around 11, he walked over to me. He was maybe mid-40s, thin, wearing a gray shirt and jeans that were wet from the knee down. I hadn't seen him go near the water. He said, "You catch anything tonight?" I said, "Not yet." He nodded, looked out at the water. Then he sat down on the concrete next to my chair, not asking, just sitting, and stared at the lake. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. After a minute he asked, "You come out here a lot?" I said, "Sometimes." He nodded again. Then he said, "I've seen you out here before." I looked at him. "When?" He smiled a little. "Few times." That landed wrong. I'd been coming out here for weeks and I'd never seen him, not once. Which meant either he was watching without me knowing or he was lying. Neither one felt good. I started reeling in my line slowly, just to have something to do with my hands. He asked me where I lived. I said not far and left it at that. He said the old Brantley Road, off the 69. I stopped reeling. I hadn't told him anything. I hadn't told him my name, what road I lived on, nothing. And yet he named a road that was less than a mile from my house. I told myself maybe he just knew the area. Maybe it was a coincidence, but my stomach didn't believe that. I said I had to pack up soon just to see how he'd react. He didn't move, just kept staring at the water. He said, "You don't have to leave yet. Night's just getting good." There was nothing threatening about the words. It was the way he said them, flat, like he already knew I wasn't going anywhere. I sat still for another few minutes trying to work out my options. My truck was behind me in the lot. His truck was parked right next to mine. The road out was 2 miles long and unlit. I had my phone, but I had maybe one bar of service out there. Then something happened that I still can't fully explain. My line went tight. Not the way it does when you catch a fish, that quick dart that pulled toward the surface. This was slow, deliberate, Something was pulling my line straight down, not sideways, not toward the far bank, straight down. I stood up and grabbed the rod. The drag started screaming. Whatever was on the end of that line was heavy, not catfish heavy, not snapping turtle heavy, something else. I looked over at the man. He was already looking at me, not at the rod, not at the water, at me, and he was smiling, not a friendly smile, just a small, quiet smile like he was watching something he'd been waiting for. I let the line go slack, cut it with my knife. I don't know why. It just felt like the right thing to do in that moment. Let go of it. I started gathering my gear. The man stood up and said, "Smart," just that word, smart, and then he walked back to his truck. I loaded my chair and my tackle box in under a minute. I got in my truck and locked the door. His truck was still there, engine off. I couldn't see him inside because of the angle, but I could see the driver's side mirror moving, adjusting, facing my direction. I pulled out and drove. I didn't stop until I hit a gas station on the 278 with bright lights and other people. I sat in that parking lot for 40 minutes before I drove home. I triple-checked my locks that night, all of them. Windows too. I sat in my kitchen with the lights off listening to the house breathe for a long time. Around 2 in the morning my phone buzzed. It was a Facebook notification, a friend request. No profile picture. The account name was a random string of letters and numbers created that same day. The account had one photo in the public section. It was dark, slightly blurry, taken from a distance. It was the reservoir, my spot, the concrete platform. And there was a figure in the frame sitting in a folding chair that looked exactly like mine. I don't know when it was taken. I don't know if that figure was me or someone else. I declined the request and blocked the account and sat there with my phone face down on the table trying to breathe. I never went back to that spot at night. About 2 weeks later, I drove by the access point in daylight just to see it in the sun, to take some of the fear out of it. I parked and walked out to the concrete platform. The water was calm, blue, normal. I looked down at the edge where I'd been sitting that night and there were marks in the concrete, long, thin scratches. The kind of pattern that didn't make sense for a person to make but didn't make sense for an animal either. They ran right up to the edge and stopped, like something had pulled itself up, gotten close, and then gone back down. I still fish sometimes, during the day, with other people, near parking lots and roads. I don't know who that man was. I don't know what was on the end of my line that night. I don't know what's in that water. But I think about the way he said smart, like he knew what was down there. And he knew I almost didn't let go. If you've experienced something you can't explain near water at night, drop it in the comments. I read every single one.